Peace and love, family. Welcome to the Northeast Political Prisoner Coalition. This is U.S. Political Prisoners and You platform that focuses on the relationship between people, working class people, and our captured freedom fighters, U.S. held political prisoners. It's always important that we understand that we have to be continuous in our discussion on our political prisoners if we want to give them any opportunity, any chance of coming home and not dying in prison, because that's what we want to avoid. But today is day 22 in April, which is Jazz Appreciation Month. Not only is it the month of jazz appreciation, but it's also the month of Mumia Abu Jamal, a captured freedom fighter for over 40 years. So today we're going to talk about Nina Simone, and we're going to talk about Mumia. Their lives are very similar in terms of accountability, principle, and passion for the advancement of their people. So I'm with my brother Tariq. Before I introduce him, I want to just talk briefly about Nina Simone, who she is, just to give an overview of her. So we get to recognize her history, her story, and then we could go on to our discussion in totality about the two lives, the two unique lives. So Nina Simone, born Eunice Kathleen Wayman, February 21st, 1933. She made her transition April 21st, 2003, was an American pianist, singer, songwriter, and civil rights activist. Simone's bearing and stage presence earned her the title the High Priestess of Soul. Her music spans styles including classical, folk, gospel, blues, jazz, R&B, and pop. Her piano playing was strongly influenced by Baroque and classical music, especially Johann Sebastian Bach, and accompanied expressive jazz-like singing in her contralto voice. Rolling Stone named Simone one of the greatest singers on various lists. The sixth of eight children born into a respected family in North Carolina, Simone initially aspired to be a concert pianist. With the help of a local fund set up in her hometown, she enrolled at Allen High School for Girls, then spent the summer at the Juilliard School of Music in New York City, preparing to apply for a scholarship to study at the Curtis Institute of Music in Philadelphia. She failed to gain admission to Curtis, which she attributed to racism. She remained musically active until her death in 2003, a day or two after the Institute awarded her an honorary degree. So that's just to give you an overview of her. There's more information on that. That's a source that provided that information was Wikipedia. I know that some people question Wikipedia, but I just wanted to just use that to give us the menu and before we proceed with our course, which is a very important discussion on these two unique uh, personalities, two very strong personalities that gives us inspiration to this very day. So I'm with my brother Tariq. Peace and love, brother. Welcome to the show again.
Uh, Peace, family. I'm glad you're here for this discussion. I am Tyreek. I am a Black Panther. I am a former member of the Black Liberation Army. I spent 17 years in numerous American death camps as a prisoner of war. And I just want to speak briefly on Mumia. And first, I want to say happy 73rd birthday, Mumia Abu Jamal. I'm very happy that you are still on top of the earth for me to wish you a happy birthday. We want to wish Mumia a happy birthday because he has spoke up loudly and clearly at great cost to him, saying we are human beings who deserve to be treated as such. Mumia is innocent. Mumia has been subject to a great amount of torture because he is innocent. In torturing Mumia, the authorities mean to say to us they will torture anyone and everyone who says something the authorities do not tell you to say. In saying happy birthday to Mumia, we are also saying we are happy Mumia has been Mumia. For Mumia to have been Mumia, it is because Mumia's parents have made Mumia be Mumia. So rightly, we owe a round of thanks to his parents, Mrs. Edith and Mr. Cook. Thank you. They did a lot of right things they co-parented, they shared the responsibility of parenting. There was no father-headed household, and everyone else's role was that of being a subordinate, inferior person. And it is important to stop here to point out the importance of co-parenting, because see, people say the root of all evil is money. The root of all evil is the father-headed household, because the father-headed household has produced people who have killed damn near 1 billion people. The father-headed household has produced people who has killed damn near 1 billion people. As you know, during World War II, people killed between 60 and 70 million people. So that was because of the father-headed household. And Mumia came out of a co-parenting situation. His mother and his father was of equal rank, and his mother and his father did not treat the children as subordinate, inferior persons. And that's a very, very important thing. Rather than dictate to Mumia, they modeled behavior they wanted Mumia to learn. Mumia became an avid reader, and later he became an award-winning journalist. This was because of seeing his parents reading. They did not shortchange Mumia's childhood, making him into a miniature person. In other words, the parents would take would model behavior that they wanted Mumia to imitate, and they wouldn't say, Mumia, God damn it, boy, you old enough to begin the reading, and you're going to start reading right now. That is the wrong way, and that is the way to produce people who are the root of the problems in the world. When you dictate to people, so that his parents model behavior that they wanted Mumia to imitate, and that's what Mumia did. Now, rather than dictate to Mumia, they modeled behavior they wanted Mumia to learn. Mumia became an avid reader, and later he became an award-winning journalist because of seeing his parents reading. They did not shortchange Mumia's childhood, making him into a miniature adult. By his parents raising him right, he was able to go through the school system without being made into an obey automaton. We want to study Mumia and his family. We socialist revolutionaries, we want to bring into existence a socialist economic and political society. At the core of these structures are loving people. In other words, the main objective of a socialist revolutionary is to bring into existence a loving person. A lot of revolutionaries don't even know this about revolutionaries, that our main objective is to produce loving people in light of the world being coming through father-headed households, and they come out messed up. So that revolutionaries want to ensure that people are not messed up, and that's why they want to know that the main objective of revolutionaries is to produce loving people. Mumia and his family are especially important during these times. There are persons who are trying to take the world back to yesteryear, back to the 1940s, the 1920s, and back to 1832. And in 1832, that's a time of slavery. That's also a time when Andrew Jackson was the president. They have a statue of Andrew Jackson across the street from the White House. And many people who came through the White House, they regard Andrew Jackson as one of their top heroes. And that's why they have a statue of him across the street from the White House. And Andrew Jackson was responsible for killing 3,750 people, and they got his statue across the street from the White House. Andrew Jackson was killed 3,750 women, old people, and children, and that's the one who they say is their hero. And that is because he came out of a father-headed household, and that is what made him like that. Also, this is happening here and in other countries, especially in Germany. There, the fascist upstarts is a group. The fascist upstarts are clearly advocating putting in place the kind of family structure that is guaranteed to produce Nazi, Hitler-type people who want to dictate to people, who want to hurt and kill people. And they know that the traditional family has produced this kind of person. And the traditional family, they practice dictating to the child, and the child learned that he or she is a subordinate, inferior person. And being a subordinate, inferior person caused these people to want to get money. The root of the problem is the father-headed household. It's not, people say the root of the problem, money is the root of all evil. Money is not the root of all evil. The father-headed household is the root of all evil, because it caused people to want to get money so that they can buy clothes and cars and airplanes. And then people can see that they are not a subordinate, inferior person. So that we want to know the root of all evil is the father-headed household. And that is why we have to throw that type of household situation in the garbage. And we have to have co-parenting where the mother and the father are equally of importance, and they do not raise their children as subordinate, inferior persons. So we want to know that. And America is broke. The rulers of the country in the National Security Council believe that the solution to the problem is to take the country back to a time when the lines between the people were clear. Blacks were on one side and whites were on the top side. The authorities are doing everything wrong to make their following say the leader is always right. As you know, when you see the leaders of the country today, they're doing everything wrong. And it's causing discussions between persons, and those MAGA people, the ones who are truly insane, the ones who are not insane are leaving the MAGA organization once they see their leaders doing everything wrong. But the truly insane ones, they're going to say that the leader is always right. And that's reminiscent of a time in Italy. The followers of fascist Benito Mussolini used to march through the street chanting, the leader is always right. And so no matter what these mega people do, their following is going to say, the leader is always right. Without the leaders telling them to march through the street saying that the leader is always right, the people, the MAGA people are going to arrive at that conclusion. So we want to know that we have to put in place the right type of family structure where there's co-parenting, and that the wife is not subordinate and the children are not subordinate. So Mumia is a loving person. He is a political prisoner. Free all political prisoners. Happy birthday, Mumia Abu Jamal.
Absolutely. We are very appreciative for your statement, because it is about Mumia and Nina Simone, and how their ideas, how their position regarding of their passion and their love for their people. And so what you did was break down a perspective on things, and I appreciate it a lot. So my first question is, who is Mumia Abu Jamal, and when did you first learn about him?
Well, Frank, I was in jail. I first learned about Mumia. I was in jail. I wasn't able to see the news or watch the news or get a newspaper because I was on a 4-year lockdown in the control unit, and I wasn't able to get that. But a friend of mine who I was in jail with had got out and moved to Philadelphia, and he had wrote me and told me about Mumia. And I learned as time went on, I learned about Mumia, and I learned that Mumia is an innocent person. And I tell you, persons who especially know that Mumia is innocent are law enforcement persons, because when they read the information on Mumia, by the time they get to page 2, they say, this guy is innocent. And then the question that comes to their mind is, why are they framing this person? And so Mumia is an innocent person, and they have framed him. They're using him as an example to tell the people that if you don't do what the authorities say, this is what will happen to you. So Mumia is an innocent person, and as I say, the information is there, which points to his innocence, and the things that point to Mumia's innocence, the authorities had that information, and they prevented Mumia from having access to that information. and Mumia was not able to present that information during the course of his trial. But as we know, the witnesses said that they had saw the person who killed the police officer run away from the scene, and as we know, it was three people at that incident: Mumia and his brother and another person, and the other person was later found dead, handcuffed, and found dead. And then it was pointed out and never brought into Mumia's trial was that the license that belonged to the brother who was killed, who witnesses said that possibly ran away from the scene, the license of that brother was in the pocket of the police officer, and that was never introduced. And that was just one of the things that was never introduced into the trial. So that we want to know that Mumia is an innocent person, and he has been held in jail all those years, while the authorities especially know that Mumia is innocent.
Yeah, and just a bit of Mumia's background. We know that he was a part of the Black Panther Party. He was a writer, and he did his job very seriously. And that makes me think about Nina Simone and how her being a musician, being very seriously about her craft. She would practice hours a day, and she made other musicians conscious about their relationship to what was going on, what their relationship to social conditions. When we first started the program, I read something and it said that she was a civil rights activist. And I think that, to see both of their lives the same as being active, being really agitated about what was going on amongst their people and being driven to actually do something. Mumia wrote a number of books. This book that I have on display, We Want Freedom, is one of several books that he wrote that I have in my library. And what made this book very strong for me in terms of my understanding of things is that he wrote about the history of the Black Panther Party. This book, it says, "We Want Freedom: A Life in the Black Panther Party." So he's writing from a firsthand account, and he's giving you a detailed historical analysis of the party, what they did, and who was what, in terms of different comrades, and especially he pinpointed it being a women's party, right? The majority of the Black Panther Party members being women, and just thinking about the social programs that they had, and that's typical of a woman's nature. She's a nurturer, and she's going to care about the children. She's going to care about the health of the people, the community, and so that was very fitting for sisters to be into the party, because they were the engine, they were the main component that drove the organization. So that book, if you want to get deeper into his life, is essential to have in your library. So find time to get it, and if you don't have the funds, get a library card and rent it. My next question is, how has Mumia influenced you as a freedom fighter?
Mumia has influenced me because he is a totally committed person. He's totally committed to the struggle, and he exhibits that by studying. He has studied extensively on what's going on in the world, and he has studied to say that when he say that revolution is the best way and that socialism is the best for the people to go, he points that out in his books, and his books say that this is not his emotional regard for the situation. This is his considered opinion. This is his opinion that he has arrived at after having studied the situation, and he codifies his findings in his different books that he has written. And so he lets us know that the best way is a revolutionary way, and he had done this studying, and he is totally committed, and that has had an influence on me. That is to show me the way, help reinforce my belief that the way that we should go, we should know that we live in this society, and this society present all of its citizens with a select diet of information which do not contain any information about our situation, about the people's situation, about economics, about African people being Africans. And so that Mumia has showed the way in terms of studying uh, the studying and learning the true history of America and learning about us being Africans and learning about the solutions. And as we know, Mumia is presently writing a book on Frantz Fanon, and Frantz Fanon is a psychiatrist, and he lets us know that to fight for our freedom is the correct way. And it's the way to affirm the fact that we love ourselves, and it affirms the fact that we are sane people, and we wish that to not be disrespected. And so Mumia is writing a book on Frantz Fanon, and he's pointing that out. So those his behavior, his writing, him being totally committed has impacted me. And as I pointed out during our discussion before the program, Frank, I used to write Mumia, and I know personally that he is a good person and he is a loving person. And we got to know that he is a loving person because of having been raised right by his parents. So when I think about Mumia, all those things come to mind.
I appreciate it. One thing that I'm gonna go back to the first question, because I didn't get to answer that myself,
Mhm.
and I'm gonna answer both of them. And the first one was about how did I learn about Mumia? I think it was in the '90s. I was doing a job at this time. I wasn't politically conscious. I just was curious about the issues that was going on with Black people, and I know I seen some comrades, some white comrades, particularly, and they were in Manhattan, and they were giving out some information. So I took some of the information, and I think I read it, and it just raised a concern about this man who was on death row, and people were fighting to save his life. So that was like the beginning. Eventually, I did learn who is, and I read about him, and I did some research, watched documentaries, and I became more and more interested in him, and why did other people towards him. And as I started to get more informed about him and look at his history, I seen the power that he had in terms of his ideas, and that's what attracted people to him. When I think about the first time I heard about Nina Simone, I don't know no particular time, but I could just when I hear her singing and I seen her passion and her performance, I said, "Wow, this is somebody that I need to take serious," because that's what her aura did. It demanded that you take her serious. And just like she's passionate when Mumia speaks, his baritone, his way of speaking draws your attention. It makes you feel like, if you don't listen to him, you're missing out on something serious. So both of them have that power, that possession. Me as a freedom fighter, I think both of them influenced me, right? Obviously in different ways. Nina, her passion, making sure that when I speak to people, I'm very serious, and with Mumia, making sure that when I speak to people, that I have all my facts together. So I'm very appreciative of both of them because they inspired me to fight stronger and harder. Because this victory that we're going to have is one that requires patience, one that requires consistency, one that requires principle, right? Because it's not something that everybody's into. Because if everybody was into it, then you could have a general strike and you could shut down the system. And now, your demands will be met because the system can't function at all because the consciousness of the working class is raised and it's empowered, and the relationship between theory and practice is expressed in practice when you have that type of a general strike. Excuse me, not to deviate off the topic, but I just wanted to put that in because we always have to deal with politics. We always have to deal with what weapons do we have when we deal with our oppression, when we deal with exploitation, when we deal with the right for our people to have self-determination. So my third question to you, my brother, is how should we celebrate Mumia's birthday?
I think that we should celebrate Mumir's birthday by remembering and advocating, remembering the principal parts of Mumir's life and advocating those principal parts. One of the parts is he was raised in a family where his parents were co-parenting, and that is to say, his parents both shared the responsibility of parenting the children, and they both loved the children, and they both took the responsibility of playing the authority figures in the family, and it wasn't no male superiority thing, and the female wife thing was an inferior thing, and her role was not to work but to stay home and take care of the children. That did not go on in Mumia's life. So we want to celebrate Mumia's life by remembering that part of Mumia's life and advocating that part. And we want to remember, celebrate Mumia's life by advocating that the modeling method, people used to raise their children by the modeling method. And in certain places in Africa, there are groups of persons who live and raise their children using the modeling method. In South America, there are groups of people who live by the family raising the children using the modeling method. And that is what the kind of family structure that Mumia was in. And we want to celebrate his birthday by recalling those things to mind, that principal part of Mumia's life to mind, and knowing that the modeling method and co-parenting is the way for society to survive. And we want to know that the modeling method will prevent the world from repeating a situation where up to 1 billion people have been killed as a result of being subjected to the father-headed household. And the alternate party in Germany, they are advocating that to go back to the traditional family where the father is the superior one and the wife and children are the inferior ones. And as I say, those that type of family structure will produce persons who will go on killing people. So we want to celebrate Mumia's birthday by remembering that he come out of a co-parenting situation and his parents practiced the modeling method. And we want to know that Mumia is a revolutionary socialist. And the principal objective of revolutionary socialist is to produce a loving person. So when we celebrate Mumia's birthday, we want to remember those principal components that made up Mumia's life. And this way, Mumia will have a happy, happy birthday.
Absolutely. So all roads lead to Philadelphia. This Friday is Mumia's birthday. I gave the information on screen. If you missed any other information or if you have any question in it, I provided my contact. It's 646-543-0720. Again, that's 646-543-0720. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think about today's program, right? What went right, what went wrong. Please share it. And one of the things that I did not mention is that we have to make sure that we support Black Power Media. It is our platform. It is the way we control our narrative. So if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. Encourage others to subscribe, right? When your contacts subscribe, we expand our audience. We touch on other areas and in terms of geography, right? And I think that that's going to be very important because the ideas of our captured freedom fighters, our political prisoners, need to resonate with other people, right? We want to expand that. So when our political prisoners come to the parole board, we have letters of support. If you're part of a school, academia, and you have a way in which I could come and speak about political prisoners, me and my beloved comrade Tariq, please let me know, providing my contact 646-543-0720. If you are a part of a masjid, I would love to come speak at a church anywhere, because this idea about our political prisoners, we got to talk about it. So as we prepare to conclude this particular episode and I reflect on Nina Simone, I think about her songs, right? I think about Strange Fruits, right? And as Viola Plummer would say, the December 12th movement, she was pissed off, right? When Nina Simone is singing this song, she's pissed off because of what's going on to her people, her beloved people. They're being lynched. So Strange Fruits speaks about that and the passion. Mississippi Goddamn, that's a very strong, powerful political song in Baltimore as well. So she's speaking about the social conditions. She's speaking about what's going on. She's speaking about what we need to do. Mumia Abu Jamal wrote several books. One I just showed you, We Want Freedom. The other one is Murder Incorporated. He's letting you know the history of imperialism, the history of racism, the history of capitalism, and what are they doing, where they doing it, and why. And I think those are important contributions that Nina Simone have given us and Mumia Abu Jamal have given us, because this is what we need to move our people forward. So those are my closing words. What are your closing words, my brother?
There's a book out about the Black Liberation Army. In that book, I have a poem out, and in the poem, I reference Nina Simone, and I let it be known that I'm a great admirer of Nina Simone. And in regard to Mumia, we want to remember that Mumia is a loving person. He is a political prisoner, and Mumia, you never heard any complaints about him. You never hear that he want to bomb the capitalists back to the Stone Age. And that is because he is a loving person and he wished to bring about a loving society. Because even though people have problems, we people can sit down and we first people think. We are thinkers, so we can make a plan to address all the problems that people have. We don't have to be spying on each other and killing each other and sneaking around doing this and sneaking around doing that. So that Mumia you don't hear him complaining. You don't hear him ranting because he is a loving person. He is a political prisoner. We all political prisoners. Happy birthday, Mumia Abu Jamal.